Here we are again with Chapter 5 Review Part 3. We're talking about corn. And if you look on page 26 and 27, you're going to find the graph for corn right here. It gives you a whole bunch of prices on the side here, and you can label those yourself because I think you got them right there. There's your list of prices. So you can do this mathematically with the numbers here, or you can do it graphically with a supply and demand there. And I think they give you a supply and demand curve, and they even give you little dots. So you can connect the dots there. What I'm really interested in is these three questions down at the bottom here. Okay, so we're asking about which buyers purchased the corn. So we got to understand that the equilibrium price is right there in the middle. So which buyers purchased the corn? See, in a marketplace, people go in with all kinds of different ideas, and so they're all coming in as buyers with all these different prices in mind, and some of them are high and some of them are low. And so you walk into a store and you say to yourself, I'm willing to pay up to this amount. So take a look at these folks here. I'm willing to buy it for $3.50 a bushel, okay, for our corn. And so they come in and they see the price at $2.75. They're willing to pay $3.50. Do they buy it? Yeah. This person up here at $3.50, they buy the corn because they're willing to pay $3.50, and they see it at $2.75 and they say, oh wow, what a deal. And I'm sure you've had that, idea in your mind that something is a great deal when you walk into the store because you came in with a preconceived idea of a high price and it's a lower than that price, and so you think it's a deal. Okay, so buyer number one buys it, and two and three, because they all have higher prices. The equilibrium's here in the middle, and they have a higher and a higher price. And so all these buyers come in with these higher than the market price ideas, and they think this is a deal. The fourth buyer comes in and says, I'm willing to go to $2.75. And where it says $2.75, hey, that's the price. And they go, yeah, I'll buy the corn. It was just the right price. Now, does that mean everyone came in thinking it had to be $2.75? No. Okay? All these other folks up here bought it at that price because they were willing to buy at $2.75 and higher. So for your answer there, you're looking at which buyers purchased the corn. Buyer numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so everyone on this part of the demand curve purchased the corn. But what about these buyers down here? See, they're saying, I want it to be at like $2 or $2.25. And they look at that $2.75 and they go, nope, that's too much for me. And they walk away. I'll sell my corn another day, or I'll buy my corn another day. They're not going to buy it because it's too much. All right? So only buyers 1 through 4 actually buy that corn. The others, they walk away. So this part of the demand curve down here, this part, these people don't participate in the market. Remember, the law of demand says willing and able to pay for something are the people of demand. So these people are able, they're just not willing. All right? Okay? They want a lower price, and for them, it's too high. It's up here. They want these. So these types of buyers, they don't purchase. Only the people up here, they're the ones that buy. All right. When we get to the next one then, it's the same concept. It's just for the sellers. So we're going to reverse it. Now sellers, they want high prices. So they come in with a preconceived notion. Now, this first one here comes in and says, I'm willing to sell it for $2. And they want a high price because they're producers. So they come in with, if I can just get $2, and they see it at $2.75, they go, oh yeah, I'll sell it. And they think it's a great deal, and they've made lots of money. And this person at $2.25 and $2.50 and at $2.75. And so what you've got is all of these right here This whole group of sellers is willing to sell their corn. So they're all willing to sell at these prices. And this last seller says, I'm willing to sell at $2.75. It's $2.75 and I'll do it. But this next one says, I want $3 or $3.25. They're wanting a price that isn't available, and so they walk away. All right? They're able to sell, they're just not willing to sell. So that's the last question there. Were any buyers unable to buy the corn? Any sellers? They're trying to lead you on this. They're basically saying, it's talking about the law of demand. Able versus willing. Were any of them unable? No. Everyone up here was able to buy and sell the corn. But these out here and these up here weren't willing to buy and sell the corn. Okay? All right. Turn over to page 30 is where we're going next. This is a good point where you can ask questions if you didn't understand the corn. Otherwise, we're moving on. All right. So we're looking at the supply and demand for lettuce. What is the equilibrium price? And if I can read that there, it looks like 60 cents. So there is 60 cents for our lettuce. Why does the price of lettuce fluctuate in the store? Why does it go up and down over time? So many people are not farmers anymore that it's actually a tough question. It turns out that we have this thing called seasons. Lettuce is really easy to grow in the summer, and so the price is really low. And then in the winter, it's very hard to grow, so the price gets higher. Because where do we get our lettuce? It comes from South America. Because it's summer in South America when it's winter here. But the cost of shipping it, or we have to put it in some kind of greenhouse and it's heated, the cost is higher. So in the winter, you got a high price for lettuce, and in the summer, low. So it goes like this over time. Okay? Illustrate on the graph what happens when farmers have a bumper lettuce crop. Again, we have very few farmers, even though we live in the Dalles. It's a rural setting, but most of you kids are city people. So a bumper crop is when you have a lot. Okay? So a bumper crop is when you're going to increase the supply at each and every price. All the farmers are producing more, and that's pushing quantity out in that way. Okay? That's increasing quantity. So the supply curve shifts that way. You'll notice what happens to the price and quantity. The price goes down and the quantity goes up. So we're getting more, but we're getting cheaper prices because that increase in lettuce allows more people to buy it. The producers have to compete, and there you go. Okay, the price goes down. So this is an interesting dynamic. What is a farmer to do if that happens? So what farmers do is they go and produce more lettuce. And when they do that, the price goes down. They produce more. Each farmer is working as hard as they can to produce more. They work 14-hour days, and they just drive the price down. So farmers go to school, they get the latest technology, they go to the universities, they have new chemical formulas, new fertilizers, they grow more and more lettuce than they've ever grown, and they work 16-hour days, and they produce even more. They just keep producing more and more and more. And what happens is that we end up with an interesting phenomenon. We are one of the best countries at growing food in the whole world, and we have tons of food. What has happened, though, is that the price keeps dropping down and down and down. We have fewer and fewer farmers. And you know who's driving our farmers out of business? The other farmers. See, I grew up on a farm in Western Oregon. I grew up on a Marionberry farm. I picked blackberries all summer. And this is our main problem, is that we would work and work and work, and it wouldn't hardly get you anywhere because everyone would work and work, and the prices would go down even though the quantity went up. So we produced more and more, and we got less and less. So who bought out the weakest farms? The strong farmers. And they drove them out of business. And so we have, I think, it's like half of 1% of our population works in the ag industry. And you'll notice that the Dalles is known for growing cherries, but very few of us actually work in the cherry industry, and even then, very few of us even make our livelihoods of the cherry industry. You know, I usually have one, maybe two kids that live on an actual farm. And the Dalles, even though it's a cherry organization city, it's actually the case where kids here have more in common with kids in inner city Detroit than they do farmers, because of this right here. So I do all these videos late at night, and my voice is running out because it's past my bedtime. So I got to take a cough drop. Okay, now you know. All right. So what we've got here is these ever-increasing quantities with these ever-dropping prices, and this is why our farming is so efficient in America and why so few people work in the farm industry and why it's so hard to make a living. Okay? And so any industry that increases its supply down in this way is becoming super efficient, which is really good for the consumer and really tough for the producer. And this is capitalism at its finest. Okay? Producers have to rigorously compete for your business, and here is them rigorously competing, and what are they giving you? More and more goods for cheaper and cheaper cost. All right? So that's what's going on there. Okay. Next part there, it says, is lettuce an elastic or inelastic good? Well, you should think to yourself, does it have many substitutes? Yes, there's a lot of leafy greens, and things that aren't even leafy greens that are probably better, like broccoli. Could you go your whole life without eating lettuce? Could you easily delay purchase? Yes. Is it a necessity? No. It's a luxury. And so for all those reasons, it's got to be an elastic good, and that's what you should explain there. What other foods are affected by the price of lettuce? So this question is asking you, what are the substitutes and complements? So if we did complements, what are the kind of things that go with lettuce? I mean, everything on a salad. Tomatoes, carrots, broccoli, croutons, salad dressing. Those are the complements. What are the substitutes for lettuce? You would say Swiss chard, kale, beet leaves, turnip leaves, endive, Savoy, all the kind of lettuce things that are out there that, can be a substitute for it. So that's lettuce. All right? Any questions? It's a great time to ask your teacher and stop the video. If not, we're going to move on to the next one, and that is on page 31, and we're going to be taking a look at perfume. And we don't care about perfume per se, but it's going to be an example for us for this product. So again, they're going to want you to do a supply and demand graph. You're going to connect those dots, but they're going to ask you certain questions like the market price and the quantity. You want to make sure, because they're trying to get you to do this, you want to make sure that when you find a price, you go over and you hit the correct line. In this case, I'm asking for demand, and then I go straight down to a quantity. If they ask you for the market price for the supplier, then you would have to go over until you hit the supply line and then go down. Okay? So sometimes you're going to hit the demand curve. The supply curve's down here and the demand curve's out there. So if they ask you for a price down here on the supply curve, it's right here. If they ask you for demand curve, it's out here. Make sure you hit the right curve before you go down, because otherwise you won't get the right numbers. Okay. But what we really want to understand is the very last question on here. Is perfume elastic or inelastic? Now you say to yourself, it's a luxury good, it's easy to delay purchase, there are many substitutes, like you could just, take a shower, soap, shampoo, body wash. So there's lots of other things that can be substitutes for perfume. So in our minds, we're already telling ourselves, yeah, it's probably elastic. But how can I mathematically prove it? And this is what a fair number of economists will be employed doing in actual commercial industries, and they will try and figure out where is that maximum minimum point range for prices. What you want to understand is, first, is it elastic or inelastic? Now, normally, remember, these things are curves. So that means we'd have to use calculus. But we're not going to do that. So what we're going to do is something simple. It's called the total revenue test. So what you do here is you pick a price and you find how much money you're going to make at that given price. Now, I like to pick easy numbers. So I'll pick a number like 30. And at 30, if I go over to the demand curve, I'm going to go down at that point. I'm going to hit 5. Okay? So if I price my perfume at $30 a bottle, I'm going to only sell 5 of them. And what happens is I multiply 30, my price, times the number of bottles I sell, that's 5, and that's going to be 150. All right? Okay. So you're going to make $150. You want to pick another point that's lower. 27. All right. At 27, I go over here and I hit the demand curve and I come down and it tells me at 27 I'm going to sell 10 of these. So I do the same math. 27 for my price, 10 for my quantity. That's going to give me $270. I have made more. I have lowered the price and I have made more money. What that means, you need to understand, is if the revenue goes up with a price drop, it is elastic. Okay? If I make more money when I drop the price, it is elastic. Now, we can pick any points on this curve, and if it is a consistently straight line, it'll always yield the same result. But remember, they're curves, and so in the real world, they won't do that. We're not going to get into that because that's like Economics 201 and 202, macro and micro. This is just an introduction to economics. So we're going to do the very simple test like this. And we're just going to assume these things are straight lines. And we're just going to take a price and another price. We're going to find those quantities and we're going to see. If we make more money when we lower the price, it's elastic. Okay. Now think about the opposite. If we lose money when we lower the price, it's inelastic. All right? If we lose money when we lower the price, it's inelastic. And if we make money when we lower the price, it's elastic. So just pick two spots, 30 and 27, but it could be any of these numbers here. Just pick one, lower the price, see if you make more money. You got it, it's elastic. And in fact, if you're working in a business and this happened, you would always say, oh, yeah, I make more money here, so what should you do? You should lower the price. And you should continue lowering the price until you're not making as much money. So somewhere down here, I'm going to bet it's right there at the middle. That's where you're going to make the most money. And that's what a business would do. They'd research the demand curve to find out. Oh, it's right there. Okay. All right. So if you have any questions about lettuce, corn, or perfume, be sure to ask in class.